For those coming into woodworking, a common question is, how can you actually make money woodworking? Well, here are 20 ways. First off, I'd suggest making small craft items. Things that you can make really quickly with just a minimal amount of wood and materials that you can sell for anywhere from $5 to $25. Now these work great at craft fairs and different events you might have local or even out of state. These sell really quickly and people love to flock to your booth just to look at what you have. Now the upside is that you can sell a ton of these really quickly. The downside is you have to make a ton of these to actually make a decent profit. Now you don't have to sell these just at local craft fairs. You can sell these on online marketplaces, whether it's on eBay or maybe even Facebook Marketplace or just anything along those lines. Now if you're having a hard time figuring out exactly what to make, just search YouTube. There are tons and tons of ideas of other makers that have built small little craft items that sell really well. Next up, I'd suggest custom furniture, and I'm referring to mainly the higher end $1,000 or higher items. The smaller, little cheaper items that can be mass produced by some of these companies, you'll never get out of it what you have in it. For example, sometimes just the wood alone will cost more than what they are selling it for. So unless you have a really big name, not many people are going to buy your stuff. Now if you're referring to the $1,000, $2,500, $10,000 items that take a lot more work but can be sold for those higher prices, I definitely suggest that. You may also want to consider teaming up with some other fine furniture makers in your area so that not only you can help them with their techniques, they can teach you some techniques as well. On top of that, by combining your name with theirs will help get your name a little bit more well known and easier for people to want your stuff. And another benefit of the higher end furniture is you only have to sell a few of those versus potentially hundreds of the smaller items to make the same amount of money. You may want to consider becoming a cabinet maker. These are great because not only are homes still being built on a regular basis, but cabinets are still being needed everywhere. A lot of people are doing renovations, a lot of people are building new homes. In any case, you are needed. One of the benefits of a cabinet maker is you're still using the same techniques over and over again throughout all of your builds. But because each one varies just a little bit, that keeps it interesting enough so you don't get bored doing the same exact stuff over and over again. And with being a cabinet maker, you can do this work independently or with a group. It really just depends on who you are and what you do. How about making an online course? The great thing about a course is you only have to make it once and then it sells itself repeatedly over and over again to whoever might be interested. For example, Steve Ramsey, who is a well-known woodworker here on YouTube, he made a course a few years ago that I took. I learned a few techniques from it that I still use to this day, and I'm glad I took that course. In fact, he's made a few other courses along the way that he sells over and over again to newcomers and beginners as well. So that's a great way to make some reoccurring income, is to make yourself a course. Now it doesn't have to be overly fancy. It could be a really small niche or it could be a really broad niche. It really just depends on what you are in expertise in and what you would like to share. Maybe you should start a woodworking membership, or in a lot of cases they refer to it as a woodworking guild. Either case, this is where members pay a regular monthly fee so they can have not only interaction with each other, but added benefits as well throughout the membership. For example, with that money coming in, not only does it provide you an income, but you can take some of that and hire out larger professionals to come in and teach not only the group, but you as well. So you can learn, the members can learn, everybody can benefit in this as well. Now, of course, unless you already have a large following, this group will definitely take a little time to grow. So don't expect it just to boom right off the bat. Now keep in mind, this does mean you have to interact with all your members on a regular basis. This could be weekly or monthly. That's totally up to you and how you design your setup. But you do have to interact and stay involved within the group. If a membership is something you are truly interested in, I'd first suggest going and joining some of the other memberships or guilds around your area or just online. Figure out what they might be lacking in, and that way you can be the expertise in those areas as well. How about teaching a class? If you have expertise in a particular area, a lot of the guilds or memberships will love to hire you to come in and teach their members, and also some of the local woodworking stores, for example like the Rockler and the Woodcraft that are in our area, they constantly have demos or woodworking classes going on to not only bring people into the store, but to help them as well. Now, if you're just starting off in this, the pay may not be as high as for others. For example, if your name is not well known, then it may not bring in or draw the crowds that they're willing to pay you for. But if you do have a following, that's a great way to make some extra money on the side. Now, if you're small, you could also maybe work out some deals with the membership groups or with the stores to get discounts or maybe free items to kind of coincide with your woodworking on the side as well. So keep that in mind. Have you ever thought about speaking at an event? Yeah, this might be similar to the teaching process, but instead of you trying to teach a specific subject, a lot of times the speaking is more broad and just for a broader audience and trying to tell your life story and things that have brought you to where you are, and that way it can just help others along the way. Now, of course, this right here, it depends on how big you are, at least name-wise, and how popular and more the crowds will bring you in. As it continues to grow, you'll get paid more. If you're just starting out, you may want to take some of these speaking events just for free. That way you can start getting your name out there and just people know you more. Another benefit to speaking, even if it is for free, it'll allow you to draw more people to things you've already created. Maybe your website, maybe a group, maybe a course. This will allow you to direct new people those directions and have a little side money from that as well. Have you ever considered hosting an event? This could be something local or something much, much bigger. For example, I go to an event every year called Workbench Con. They bring in a bunch of woodworkers, metalworkers. Basically, if you're a maker of any kind, they want you to attend this so we can all interact and mingle with each other to learn from each other and just get excited about the making community. But not only do they have those people come in, they have a bunch of different companies coming in and sponsoring it as well. So you have the ticket sales for all the makers coming in, you have the sponsorships for all the companies that are wanting to come in and be well known, so you have a large income coming in. Now, there are a bunch of fees associated with a type of event like this. You want to do all the local licenses, make sure you get those all correct. Any kind of renting fees, like maybe you're doing it in a hotel or out in the field, you're going to have to rent that for a short while, so that's going to cost some money. All the electricity, hands-on people, like maybe you're filming some of this, there's going to be a lot of cost to it. So make sure before you host an event to actually go out, figure out some of the costs, and just know exactly what you're getting into before you do, so you don't lose money. But hosting an event is a great idea. Have you been working in one particular area for a long time, or maybe you're just an expert in one particular niche? Well, maybe you should consider consulting. Yes, that's kind of like teaching, but this is more behind the scenes. You're not out in front of a big group. This is usually for smaller companies or just companies that are looking to expand or just want some outside influence on helping them with customers or maybe just helping them with changing their designs. Now, as you begin this process, your consulting fees may not be very high. In fact, it may be non-existent at the beginning. But a good way to start off is, instead of asking for a fee right off the bat, try and go to some of the larger companies in your area, and as you're doing your consulting, ask for references to companies and friends that might be interested as well. This will not only provide you with more companies to go to, but actually their reputation is backing you up to get into that door, so that'll help you out. Have you ever considered buying a sawmill and selling slabs of wood? Now, of course, there is an added expense right up front to buy the sawmill. But once you have the sawmill and you have the things working, it's actually a lot cheaper than you might think. For example, Matt Cremona on YouTube, he's great with getting up with local organizations, local tree companies that are cutting down trees. And in the process of them cutting those trees down, a lot of times the main trunk of the tree can't be broken up into all the mulch that they usually grind everything up with. So they have those companies actually bring their wood, their trunks, over to his property and he can mill them up. Or in some cases, he may actually take a trailer over and pick them up. So the cost of actually getting the trees, the trunks that he can slap up, can be very minimal. So not only are you paying little for those trees, you're helping to clean up and beautify what would normally either be just something still laying around or end up in a landfill. Take that wood, turn it into some beautiful slabs, and then you can turn out and sell them. Now, one of the drawbacks to a sawmill is actually needing the storage area. Once you've sawed up the slabs, you have to set them to the side and let them dry out. Depending how thick your wood, it could take multiple years for your wood to actually dry out and be to the right moisture content for you to actually make or sell it. Now, of course, you can always get a kiln or maybe even a solar kiln to speed up that process, but that's some additional costs you may want to take in consideration. Now, if you're new to woodworking, but you really love it, you might want to consider getting a job at a local furniture company. This will allow you to get some hands-on experience and just learn a bunch of techniques that you didn't know before. But in the best part, while you're learning this trade, you can get paid. And that way you can not only pay your bills, but you can have fun as well. Then, after time, you can take all that expertise and go start your own woodworking company. Maybe you should consider opening a furniture repair shop. I recently went to a class on this topic and I was quite surprised at how much diversity and how much need there is in this area. There are a lot of people wanting to pass down antiques, maybe from their grandmother or great-grandmother down to their kids, but there's little issues with the furniture that need repairs and you can do that work for them. Also, you can go to estate sales and yard sales and find some of this furniture that might be really old, that have scratches and dents or maybe missing some pieces that you can go and flip it, turn around and make a major profit on. How about starting a YouTube channel? Of course, there are a lot of woodworking channels currently on YouTube, but don't let that scare you. There's somebody out there who wants to listen to your experience and to learn from you. Now, of course, when you start your channel, you're not going to make a bunch of money off the bat. In fact, you might make hardly any money at all. But as it grows, as your experience gets known and people want to view your stuff, your channel will grow and get bigger and bigger. And that'll allow you to not only make money from YouTube, but you can do consulting, you can have directing out to your website, you can have affiliates. There's a bunch of ways that you can take the YouTube videos and actually convert it into money going in different directions. Do you like to whittle or make little small carvings with your hands? Well, that's a great way to make a little extra money. Now, I mentioned crafts earlier, but I want to separate this out because this is something that you can do in a quiet space. You can do this at home at night when everybody's sleeping. You can do this in your living room just while you're whittling over a trash can. It's not something that needs to be in a workshop. You can do this just about anywhere. And with whittling, you can make anything from Christmas ornaments to make little faces or just little fun items that people will want to buy from you. Here recently we were visiting my parents up in the mountains and we happened to be driving along and we saw this gentleman on the side of the road taking a chainsaw to what looked like firewood. But as he sat there and he carved away, this little piece of firewood turned into this awesome looking bear figurine. I mean, it was probably about 2-3 feet tall and it just looked awesome. That's a great way to take what could potentially be some firewood and turn it into something profitable. So if you have a chainsaw, it might take a little bit of work, a little bit of technique to figure out all those little designs, but you should try that out. But of course, please be careful. Have you ever seen a tree stump in somebody's yard? It's pretty much an eyesore, even a trip hazard. So here a few years ago, I had to have a tree cut down that was hanging over the house. And in the process, I had somebody come out and cut a cross into the tree and it looked great. And it's been there for many, many years. I also know of another gentleman in a similar situation who had somebody come out and carved an eagle into the trunk of the tree. So if you like carving, you may want to consider, instead of just having trees cut down, let them leave the stump, go out there and turn what is an eyesore into some beautiful art. Now, if you don't have one, you might want to consider a CNC or a laser. The prices of these tools have been dropping a lot here over the last few years because more and more companies are making these and they're just a lot more accessible. Now, some people don't consider these woodworking, but that's totally up to you. They're great if you're doing repetitive tasks and you set the machine up and let it do that so you don't wear yourself out. Or if you're doing something really distinctive or you want to personalize something for certain people, you can do that right in front of them. It's just a great way to add an additional tool to your shop. Have you ever considered working with epoxy? Now, epoxy is a great way to make really unique furniture and designs and whatever you would like to use with it. Now, of course, the popularity has come down a little bit from its peak just a couple years ago, but it's still real popular with people in furniture. People find stuff that's unique, it has unique colors or just designs in it, they still want it. We went to a recent fair and it was a neat piece of cedar wood that just had this blue epoxy around it and it looked gorgeous. People loved it. And if by chance you have a piece of rotted wood that you'd love to use for a project, you can use epoxy to firm it up and give it strength so you still can. If you're going to make a big project, I'd suggest, if you can, try and make a set of plans. Now, you can make these digital plans and that way they can sell over and over again, specifically if it's on your website. So look at this. If you make a project, you can sell it and make money. If you make some plans for it, you can sell those plans over and over again. And if you make a video for that, now you have 3 sources of income from one project. And last but definitely not least, you could set up a Facebook group. Now I know not everybody's on Facebook, and that's true, but a lot of the older generation is, and it's a lot of the older generation that do woodworking. So not only can you set up a group for people to find you and find your website, find your plans, find your videos, it's a great way for them to just link up with you, link up with others, and be associated with you in a roundabout way. So that can feed into everything else and benefit you as well. And of course, if you like woodworking, you may want to check out these videos next.